Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our first ever Duck to Duck event. I'm Dr. Sarah Klein, Vice President for Student Affairs. It is so exciting to be here tonight for this very special occasion. So tonight you're attending our first ever Duck to Duck event. This is a series in which alumni come back to Stevens and get into a conversation with a current student, so you can see a little bit about life after the pond, what might happen after Stevens, all of the things that can happen along your journey by hearing the story of a fellow duck. Once a duck, always a duck. First, I'd like to introduce Isaac Lake. He's our student host for the evening. He's a 4 out of 4 computer science major. He performs with the Stevens Improv Comedy Group Off Center, as well as with Stevens Dramatic Society. Let's welcome Isaac to the stage. And now I'm so honored to introduce tonight's esteemed alumnus. He's got 16.2 million subscribers on YouTube. He's the creator and host of the tech podcast Waveform. YouTube isn't even his full-time gig. He's also a professional ultimate frisbee player. He's interviewed folks ranging from Barack Obama to Will Smith, Kobe Bryant, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, and Elon Musk. He's considered by many people to be the best tech reviewer on the planet. And a mere 7 years ago, he was just another guy on the pizza line in Pierce Dining Hall. Please give a big Stevens welcome to Marquez Brownlee, class of 2015.
So, welcome back to campus.
Thanks. Yeah, this is very different from when I was here.
Was Jacobus still around?
Jacobus is, it was right here. And there was a frisbee golf course, actually, that we made when I was on the team here, and we would throw around campus, and we had like the horse statue is one of the holes, the Pierce was one of the holes, and then we'd throw over Jacobus, and now you can't really do that anymore. So,
yeah, there's quite the wind tunnel between the two new towers. If you throw there, it's going to Knudsen. So first off, thank you so much for coming out. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Let me just start off. For those who don't know, what major were you when you were at Stevens?
I was a biz tech major. I also had a concentration in marketing and information systems.
Nice. What dorm did you live in?
I was trying to remember this. I believe it was, we were just talking about this, what was it? Jonas. Jonas.
Yeah.
I was in Humphreys Hall for pre-college, and then I was just a few blocks off campus after that. So,
You just made everyone who lived in Humphreys Hall night.
Nice.
You just made that. So, you've been making videos for how long now? For 13?
13 years.
13. Yeah. How was it transitioning from making videos and going to college? Did you get like a lot of attention from people when you were starting out as like a freshman?
No, not really. I'd been doing it since high school, so I already knew that was something I was interested in doing. I was making lots of videos in as much free time as possible, and it was kind of funny. You all have the programs where you have internship in between semesters and things like that, and I used that time to make more videos. So I kind of knew that's what I wanted to do. But yeah, it was sort of like a quiet thing that I was doing in my free time. It wasn't so much like a popular thing to do.
Was there at any point during your college time that people it's like a click of like, oh my gosh, it's him?
Not really, no.
Really?
No, I mean, so I had one class which was called, it had something like social media in the title.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had the professor ask me, do you want to speak about this since you're doing this already? And I was like, not really. I kind of just want to see what you would teach us.
Mm-hmm.
But we ran some interesting case studies on Facebook and marketing campaigns, things like that. But it was just one of those things where I would try to apply as much as I possibly could from class back to what I was doing.
So also during that time, you were with the Ultimate Frisbee Club How was that time at Stevens?
That was really fun. That's where I have all my friends from Stevens. It was 4 years of, I think, the peak of the program. I think it was a really high point for Stevens Ultimate back then. And then since then, I've kept in touch with a lot of fellow Ducks from people who played. And it's been really cool actually to see like some of the people that I captained while I was the captain there are now captaining the team currently. So sort of a tradition to keep in touch. So
The mini alumni network already.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
By the way, I told you before, but congratulations for this season. You guys absolutely killed it.
Thank
you. Get like a round of applause. They just went undefeated this season. How many games? It was 15?
15 and 0. Yeah.
15 and 0.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Was there any other clubs that you were part of while your time at Stevens, or was it mostly Ultimate Frisbee?
No, I was very focused. I knew that Ultimate was a big part of, I played a lot in high school. I knew I wanted to play wherever college I went. So getting here immediately, first thing I did was find the field, and there were people throwing, and I introduced myself, and I was like, you guys on the team? And I was like, yeah, are you gonna play? And I was like, yeah. And it was like a quick thing, we knew. So that's really like the 1, 2, 3 of how I spent my time was like college, that's like classes, we all know the work we have to do to get our grades up, and then Ultimate and videos. That's just what I did.
Nice. So I guess that opens up the question. When it came to deciding what college to go to, what made you decide Stevens?
It's a good question. I had a couple choices. I mean, they were all sort of along the same theme, which was schools with a good business school and a technical background. I knew I was into tech. I always kind of was into the gadgets and a little bit of how it's made, a little bit of the marketing behind it, trying to get into that field. And so I was just looking at schools that had good programs, and then of the ones I got into, I picked Stevens. So that was kind of the main criteria. And then it was, I know some people, this is gonna sound insane, some people pick it based on like who has a better Frisbee team. This is real, like that's actually a thing. I was here to play wherever I ended up going to school, so yeah.
Of course, your channel took off during your time at Stevens. Did you have like any like backup plans if in the case of just
No, I mean, I guess so. The one thing that I sort of imagined, so there was a time when I was in high school and then going to college where, for those who don't, I make a lot of videos about tech products, and a big part of that is interacting with people who work at tech companies who would either send you the product for review or explain the product to you or brief you on the product or something like that. So when I was going to college, I was like, I'm either going to keep making videos like this, or I'm going to end up being one of those people at one of those companies, and so I should get prepared for that and see if I can be the best version of that possible. Luckily, the video thing worked out, so I'm still doing that. But I've had a pretty good look at both sides of that coin. So.
Me being the interviewer, you've also done some pretty incredible interviews with some pretty incredible people. What are the biggest skills going into you think were most profound that you maybe learned from Stevens or just in general?
Well, I mean, a big part of the college experience is socializing with new groups of people. And as far as interviews, I feel like I just kind of got thrown into the fire. My first ever interview was as a teenager interviewing Kobe Bryant during his farewell tour. What? That's insane.
Nice start. That's
I wasn't a good interviewer yet, but it was kind of cool because Kobe, in his 20th year in the NBA, is really good at being interviewed. So he took my very basic questions and sort of ran with it a little bit and answered more than he had to, and was very fun to talk to and gave me that confidence, which was really cool. And so I kind of took a little bit of that into future interviews, which is it's more than just question, answer, question, answer. It's a little more of a conversation. You're on a theme, you're on a topic, you're exploring something new with somebody who has a perspective that you don't share. And so it's kind of fun to explore that and pick it apart a little bit. But yeah, I was definitely not a good interviewer when I started, and I'm still trying to get better at it, but that's how it started.
This is my first interview as well.
So I'm pretty good.
I'm rated. I'm pretty for number one there. What would you say is your most enjoyable of the interviews that you've done or gotten interviewed before? You were on Hot Ones.
Oh, being interviewed, yeah. Well, Hot Ones is a fun show. I will say, I mean, yeah, the Kobe interview is pretty special to me, and that was obviously first, but it was just it was a good formative thing. Something that you kind of start to notice the more interviews you watch and the more that you're a part of is typically the person being interviewed has a little bit of an agenda, at least a little bit. Whether they're on a press tour or they're selling something or they just came out with a book and now they're going on Fallon and doing all the, the things you do when you write a book. And so I think when I interviewed Elon, it was actually very unique because he didn't have any special thing he was doing. We just talked on Twitter and he was just like, oh yeah, we should do a video or something. So I think that was another fun one, just sort of nerding out behind the scenes. But yeah, those are two that come to mind.
So you have a new car channel that's out recently.
Yep.
How is it to expand out into automobiles and stuff?
It's funny, cars these days are like more gadgets than ever. So it was kind of a natural expansion. I mean, when I was here, I remember I got to go into the city to check out Tesla Model S for the first time. It was like a computer on wheels. It was super cool, and I kind of knew I was into electric cars for some reason. I was never really into cars, but then suddenly electric cars are this thing. And yeah, more than ever, companies are chasing like being a high-tech car, being a gadget on wheels, and I'm already reviewing gadgets. So let's check these things out. Like I'm super down to see how far these companies will go, and it's evolved a lot since the beginning, which is super cool. So yeah, the car channel now, it's called Autofocus. I think it's a great name. It is just about cars, and it is just exploring owning the gadget that is a new car.
I was showing you, one of my favorite shows that you did was that retro tech.
Retro tech.
I gotta know what was your favorite that you've done so far, or just in general?
I would say the one that stood out was the Motorola Dynatac. Now this is the thing, I read a lot of phones, and like I've gotten to see the evolution of, from iPhone 3GS was when I was starting, basically up until now, which is like this huge difference. But getting to look back at where phones came from, which was, if you guys have seen the Dynatac, it's the size of a briefcase. It's like a very different world that people were living in when that was new tech. But exploring it as a piece of tech was really fascinating. I recommend, if you haven't seen the Dynatac, just Google it to figure out, get a look at that thing, because it's weird. But yeah, that one stood out to me.
So I showed you before you came out here, but I'm a little behind. If for those who can't see this, I own a first generation iPhone SE. I've had it since my sophomore year of high school. My question, have you ever had like a piece of tech that you just like, you couldn't part with? Or you ever felt like you just, natural process, just upgrading?
Right, yeah, that's a good question. So tech does evolve a lot over time. I'll never have a phone for more than about a month. So it's interesting to see. Was that a weird thing? I think the thing that came out when you said that question in my head is there's a certain lens that I've used for a very long time. It's the Sigma 18-35 f1.8. Anybody know what that is?
Yes.
So you know what that is? Okay. I've been using that lens since I was at Stevens. That same exact lens, and I've had it for a number of years. Because camera tech evolves in a different way. It's not like there's a hot new, well, I guess it kind of is, but there's not like a brand new camera that you definitely upgrade to every year, which a lot of people do with phones. It's more of like, what's your shooting style? What's your priority with cameras? And that lens, which, to nerd out for a brief second, it's an extremely fast, wide, parfocal zoom. It's super rare. It's like you don't find that type of lens very often. And I think Sigma should make more of them. Anyway, that's my thing.
So you've explored so many different kinds of tech. Henry was giving you a little bit of an interview himself beforehand. I'm gonna ask the same question because it was just so good. What was your favorite piece of tech that you ever got to review?
Yeah, my natural gut reaction answer is the Tesla Model S Plaid, which is a specific model of the four-door electric sedan from Tesla. Because it's just one of a kind. It's in my opinion, it's like the most, it's the best overall car in the last decade, and I think that's like a kind of a hot take, but it really rings true to me, and it's also hilariously fun. So yeah, that might be the most fun individual product out of all these crazy things I can try. Yeah.
So circle back. You mentioned your the step into life during your time at Stevens. How does that differ to now in terms of just like work-life balance and stuff like that?
Oh, interesting. Well, I mean, when I was here, and anytime I was in school, I tried as hard as I could to be focused on school. Like, I want to get the good grades, and I want to get the degree, and mom and dad are very happy about that. But honestly, the biggest change since graduating is just like take all of the time that I was putting into school, and now I'm also putting that into videos. So like, I was playing Ultimate. I'm still playing Ultimate. But it became like a very clear direction. I think I just had a moment where I was like, oh, this is my full-time job now. That's different. It was kind of a part-time thing before. But I do want to at least leave that with people, which is like finding something that you're like really passionate about, that you actually care about a lot. Often requires trying a lot of different stuff, but once you find that thing, it kind of becomes a no-brainer that that's what I want to do with all of the free time that I have. And so being able to turn it into a job when I graduated was pretty perfect.
So I mean, you're surrounded by tech constantly. Do you, like after work or after Frisbee and tech, do you put like the phone down, or is it constantly on you?
Okay. I try to start my day without using my phone. That's my like good habit of like a little bit of detox. Like I am fairly plugged in, obviously. My unplug is Ultimate Frisbee tournaments. So are there Ultimate players here, by the way? Anybody? One? Okay. So when you're at a tournament, like you're pretty locked in. You don't really get to hang out on your phone. You're walking around fields and you're playing for 2 days straight. And that's like kind of my time to unplug. So when I'm at a tournament, I'm not working for 2 days, which is kind of a lot for me. If I'm not at a tournament, yep, I'm plugged in. The internet doesn't sleep much. So, but yeah, my version of finding a healthy balance is unplugging during tournaments and starting my day where I don't check my phone until I'm walking out the door. And that's actually very hard.
That's good advice. That's great. So you started in high school making videos and stuff. Was that something that came back from childhood, like a motivation? Because I mean, at the time, what was it, 2009 YouTube?
2009, yeah.
Yeah. Was it just general interest at the time that made you want to start making videos, or was it like something like you just always loved tech as a kid?
I think that's what it comes down to. It was kind of twofold. One was like, tech is cool. I like making tech, and there was this fun feeling of like pointing a camera at something, and then it was tapes actually to start, but like making something yourself. Like I pointed the camera here, I did the zoom and the focus and everything, I cut it up, I made this video, I made this. There's something about that I really liked, and it was tech focused. And then the other part was, in 2009, so here's another random fact that I've taken with me to Stevens, which is like the #1 job if you ask people what they want to do in high school and college is most of them say they want to be a YouTuber, which is fascinating to me. But in 2009 when I started, that did not exist. That was not a real job. And so the path from turning something that you do for fun into a real job before it actually exists in the wild is kind of a fascinating thing, and it can only really happen if you really care a lot about it and put a lot of time into it. So yeah, I think it was actually an advantage that I started in 2009 when only people doing it were doing it for passion. Nobody was doing this to, I want to be a YouTuber. That wasn't real. So I think that was a sort of a fun new chapter in the history of social media, which is now people are like, oh, that seems fun. I want to do that too. But there's a whole process that goes into it.
At any point during your time at YouTube, did you ever think of like switching platforms? I know Twitch is really big now. Did you ever think of expanding over to streaming and stuff like that, or streaming on YouTube?
I think live streaming is a whole nother skill. I think it's a whole skill. And I was just having this conversation on my podcast actually, which is you have like Twitch, you have other platforms, even TikTok, for example. Is that a platform or a feature? And it's kind of, at first you're like, oh, like, obviously TikTok's a platform, obviously Twitch is a platform. But if you're at YouTube, which is the biggest video archive in the world and like the biggest, most dominant video site ever in human history, live streaming is a feature. It's just one of the things you can do in the video world. Shorts, little vertical videos, oh yeah, we got that. Scrolling for a while, yeah, we got that. So I've expanded a little bit into other formats and other features, but I do feel like as a video creator, YouTube is the hub. YouTube is where I want to be. Having that confidence in YouTube is pretty incredible as a platform. They're doing a really good job for the most part, so pretty happy with that.
Never like 2010, you're like, I'm gonna switch to video.
No,
It's a
no.
daily coaching.
No, I mean, they were the biggest competition at one point, but no, yeah, YouTube's been, I mean, for people who follow Twitch, like, you know, it's a little unstable. Like, you know that there are other platforms that you could put videos on, but, you know, Vine, right?
Yeah.
You know it's not always going to be around, but YouTube has been that rock for video on the internet for forever.
I'm sure you've met a lot of other YouTubers on the platform during your time. What would you say was like the most like interesting interaction you've had?
I mean, I talk to a lot of other tech creators. That's like the #1 group because we all see each other at tech events. But it is always interesting to talk to people who are not in tech because everyone in a different genre views YouTube a different way. You've heard of Jimmy, Mr. Beast. Like, anytime you watch one of his videos, you realize that person thinks different. You have to think about making videos very differently. To an extent, he specifically kind of thinks of them backwards. He thinks of a good idea, a title and a thumbnail, and then the video that can satisfy that packaging. Where if you are a product reviewer, you actually have to start with the product, and if it's good enough, then you arrive at a title and a thumbnail and then package your video. So it's like this backwards, you know, I like talking to people who don't make tech videos, and I actually feel like I learn more that way. Anyway, that's a long way of saying Mr. Beast is something you can talk to.
So you do a lot of editing for your videos.
Yep.
You've done all of them, pretty much.
All but 3. I recently added an editor, but 1,503, yeah, a lot.
And of course, how many videos in your repertoire of that you've edited so far?
I think, yeah, it's like 1,500 something. But it's crazy because it's over 14 years or whatever, so it's kind of averaging around 2 a week for 15 years. That's about what it is, yeah.
Wow. When you just started out, what software did you use?
I started with Windows Movie Maker. So you can start anywhere.
Yeah.
And then I used something called Camtasia Studio 7. Who said yes? You used Camtasia? Okay. That was a screen recording software. But it was also a good editor. So you could record a screen recording and then you could bring in footage and just edit.
I remember watching your old
The
videos.
screencast?
Yeah, the screencast.
That was an era. That was an era for sure.
One of the best intros, honestly.
Thank you. From there, it was straight to Premiere and straight to Final Cut Pro. I was on Final Cut Pro for like 6 years.
What would you say was like one of your like most proudest edits that you did for a video?
Oh, okay. I really enjoyed, and this was a unique challenge. I wanted to find out what would happen if, you guys know about video compression. When you upload a video to YouTube, it's a little bit softer than when you originally saw. What would happen if you downloaded that and then uploaded that to YouTube, and then downloaded that and then uploaded that, and then kept going and going and see how far it deteriorates? I did that 1,000 times. And then once I had all 1,000 videos, the challenge was, how do I turn this into something that anybody will watch? And, you know, I think we did an okay job, but that was like I think it's a little bit out of the normal formula, which is, I think, a more satisfying edit. I feel like at this point, if you gave me a gadget to review, I can do that in 3 days. I can use the product, and after the time I'm using the product, in 3 days I'll have a video. And it's like, I've got that down. But when it's a little more outside the box, it is more of a challenge, but it's more satisfying to actually figure that out.
What video like have you made that you felt like was most like outside of regular style content? You mentioned Mr. Beast videos and stuff like that. What video have you made that's like you felt more like a fish out of water or a duck out of water?
The duck out of
Yeah.
water. That's good. I think the interviews come to mind. I talk about products so much that it's kind of fun just getting a perspective on tech from people who don't usually give their perspective on tech. Now here's a little inside baseball. First it was Kobe. Then it was, I think it was straight to Bill Gates. I don't remember who was second. It was Neil deGrasse Tyson second. And then it was Bill Gates. But the weird hard pivot that happens when you do things at a very visible scale is when I do a video with Bill Gates, a lot of other companies reach out offering their CEOs for interviews. And I said yes to a few, right? I said yes to Satya Nadella and Sundar Pichai, and suddenly the interviews were just like, which CEO will you talk to next? And I don't really want that, actually. I kind of want to just branch out and talk to all kinds of people who have a perspective on tech. So I think something I want to step out more with is the interviews and like, who should I talk to who can give their perspective on tech, who's interesting to talk to but might have something valuable to add. There are people who I've talked to and tried to interview who like don't care about tech at all, and that's like not actually fun to listen to. But we'll find something.
So we do podcasts and excellent platforms to explore out. Who's been like your favorite guest so far, or your next big idea for next like guest to come on?
Guests are fun. I've had a couple fellow creators on lately, and I actually think that's the most fun because it's also a little bit insider that you get to pick their brain about how they make videos and learning about their process and their priorities and their style and what they do in certain moments. I think a lot of us have a lot in common. Like, even if you watch our videos, like there might be 10 people who review the new watch, for example. We're all reviewing the same product. We're all kind of saying the same things about the same product. But we're all saying it in a slightly different way. It's kind of fun to unpack that a little bit. So why did you decide to start the video with like the screen brightness for some reason? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? Anyway, yeah, I like talking to fellow creators on the pod just because we have a lot in common, but a surprising amount of different ideas about how to do things.
Would you say, what is like easier editing? Do you think podcasts were easier to edit or your videos?
At first, the videos, because I'm so in the flow with them, but now the podcast can kind of just be like quick and dirty because it's a podcast. Like it's 45, 55, 75 minutes or whatever, and we actually intentionally started the podcast so we could get more into the weeds and less edited and just like nerd out, and there's an audience for that, which is kind of cool. So that actually now is an easier edit because it's intentionally less edited versus the very polished, very critical edits for the main channel videos. Yeah.
Did you ever, like sitting in your college dorm, did you ever like picture we get this big?
No. It's funny, there's a stat where I'm gonna just ask this, I don't know if anyone knows this. Does anyone know what the first YouTube channel to hit 1 million subscribers was? No? Fred, there it is. This is good. Fred, yeah, nobody knows who Fred is, right? But many years ago, it was unfathomable that one YouTube channel had 1 million people subscribed to it. That was a very strange thing at the time. And I was making videos, I had a few thousand subscribers, and I was like, obviously I'll never have 1 million subscribers. Clearly, that doesn't make any sense for a niche channel like a tech channel to have 1 million subscribers. Fast forward to 2022, there's several channels with 100 million subscribers. And today I'm still thinking the same thing. There is clearly no way a tech channel will ever have 100 million subscribers. But we're probably going to fast forward another 15 years and be talking about the same thing with some crazy new set of numbers. So I guess the point is never say never. Like there are communities for every niche, and as obviously the world of the internet grows, the world's more connected than ever. You will find a community online more easily than ever. I'd say you might be surprised at the size of that community.
I guess going off that, in terms of communities, how was it you discovering like a tech community early out, like early internet, or I guess our 2009, 2010, that era?
Like building a community?
Yeah, building that up.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, YouTube has its tools, like the YouTube comment section is kind of one community. And we kind of started doing like other social media. I mean, MySpace was a thing from, you know what that is, right? MySpace. We have Twitter now. Like I started Twitter. There's a sort of a community that evolved there. There were things like Google Plus and Google Buzz and all sorts of other things. Like, things pop up and they go away, but they all have a different idea of like what a community looks like. Facebook's been one of those mainstays that you can hang out on. Now there's TikTok, and there are, you'll go down the rabbit hole of like makeup TikTok or like hurricane TikTok, whatever. There's every little community is like a massive thing if you look hard enough. So it's gotten, I guess, easier to build communities and easier to find people with similar interests, which is one of the perks of being a high-tech person and knowing about that and going to Stevens and all that. So yeah, better than ever.
Pretty good conversation, I'd say. So I think now we're going to switch over to Q&A from the audience.
Hi Marquez. I've been watching since the iPhone 5S review when phones were like knocked in. So I mean, my question is like, what makes matte black the best finish out there?
Matte black is the aesthetic of choice for me. I would say it's just simple, simplicity, clean. If you can keep it clean, it's simple. And I think there's a beauty in simplicity. A lot of the most crazy like architecture and things are very complicated. And if it's just clean and simple, and it can still be impactful, I like that.
I wholeheartedly agree. Thank you.
Hello. Speaking about your views on simplicity, what are your views on right to repair, I guess, and which direction it's heading in the modern world?
Yeah, I made a video this year about right to repair, and I think it's a fascinating topic because on one hand, I love right to repair. Like, you want to be able to replace and repair the parts and things that you bought and you own. But on the other hand, and this is like maybe a hot take, but as I see tech get better, it becomes more and more integrated, more and more tightly packed, and harder to repair. But the tech just got so good that like I like good tech, but I also want it to be repairable. And this is a challenge for the companies building it. So my only stance is like in every video, I try to give some note on repair or sustainability. But I do understand that it's a huge challenge. Some of the companies you guys in this room are going to be working for are going to be working on that exact problem. So, looking forward to it.
All right, thanks so much.
Yeah.
Hey Marquez, big fan. Quick question. I'm a big car guy, as you can see. I don't know if you've heard of this little show called Top Gear. Yeah. Jeremy Clarkson, James May, Richard Hammond. I absolutely love them. But over the years they've gone into other reviewing different things, like even countries.
Yep.
Could you see yourself reviewing something like not related to tech at all?
That's interesting. It's hard to think of something that actually isn't related to tech at all. Like if you think about it generally, like you'd say like, oh, what, like a toaster or something? And suddenly you're like, wait a second, now there's smart toasters and like toasters with screens and Bluetooth connections and cameras. So my general philosophy is I just want to review stuff I'm interested in, and usually it's somehow connected to tech.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Hey Marcus, big fan as well. My question is, like, how there's a lot of drama going on Twitch and stuff, and like a lot of people are like fearing that it might fail as a platform. What would you do if YouTube fails as a platform?
Yeah, you kind of have to pivot, right? I've been thinking about this because every couple years it comes up again, what if YouTube disappears? And YouTube is so big that if it were to start to fail, the fall would be so long and so massive that you'd have time to jump off, right? And you get to pick what to jump on next. Really good Casey Neistat quote. Yeah, Tarzan gets through the jungle by letting go of the previous vine before grabbing the next one. You gotta let go of the last thing you were doing to reach the next thing. And so if YouTube ever fails, I will let go of that vine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, fine, by the way.
So as a tech reviewer, your job is to remain impartial, but do you feel like there are any companies that have kind of, weaseled their way into your conscience and, made you be a fan of them so you can't be impartial?
They're always trying. No, legit, like there's people whose entire jobs are to try. And so I've done what I think is a pretty good job of staying impartial, and I think mostly because it's in the back of my mind all the time. I think when I was new to this, it was harder because there would be companies who would offer, hey, we'll fly you out and you can see these cool things and stay in this nice hotel and see the product. I'm like, this is so cool, this is amazing. I'm in Hawaii to check out an Intel processor, like what's happening? But the more you do it, the more you realize what's happening, you get your sensors up and you understand that the most important part of the job is to remain unbiased and impartial. So that's what I try to do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey Marquez, where do you picture your channel or yourself in like 10 years? Do you think you'd move on to new ventures? Like even if you're still doing tech, do you think you'd be on like maybe another platform or like you started like a podcast? What do you think you're gonna be doing?
I find that question very hard to answer because 10 years ago, if you asked me what would you be doing in 2022, that was 2012. I would have been very wrong. The one thing I'll say I do think makes a lot of sense is to graduate from reviewing lots of products to maybe making some.
Great. Thank you so much.
How do you feel about YouTube as a way to promote yourself to employers or like creating a digital footprint for young people in tech?
I like that. It's a really modern question. I think in a couple years ago, trying to get hired, it was kind of like this interesting thing where they'll Google you and they like find what you're into, or maybe your Facebook page has some pictures on it, whatever. And now it's like, yeah, they're gonna Google you, like they're gonna look you up. So you might as well have a nice looking digital footprint. And I think YouTube, it's kind of in the name, gives you a chance to express yourself and also show what you're most interested in and enthusiastic about. And employers are gonna find it. People who are interested in working with you are going to find it, and I think that's a good idea.
It's really awkward having the last name Lake when you Google me, because it will show up just photos of lakes.
Are there lakes with your name?
Yeah.
I
think there's one in Ohio, so hopefully it builds me up.
Yeah, nice lakes though. Hopefully. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey Marcus, you have a lot of fans all around the world, so I'm a part of them. Could we ever see you collab with an international YouTuber, like a tech YouTuber?
I have, and I plan on doing more, yeah. It's always interesting when I look at the analytics, seeing the list of countries. It's like Google knows everything about everyone watching, so it's like you can see the English-speaking countries at the top, and then it rapidly becomes this enormous list of all these countries you didn't expect. And I think that's amazing, and I hope to be able to work with more now. But yeah, there's tech YouTubers in the UK, Australia, Canada, all over the place, and I've loved them.
Big love from Kazakhstan and Russian-speaking community.
Appreciate it.
So in your time reviewing tech, was there one thing that you did that you would say had the most impact on the tech industry? Like, yeah, I did that sort of moment?
Yeah, I guess part of what happens when you review a lot of products is some of them are really good. Some of them are like, all right, and then some of them are really bad. It just happens sometimes. Now, these companies are huge, and it has to get past a lot of people to actually get out. So not too many terrible products exist anymore. But there have been a few. I've definitely leaned into some of them pretty hard, and you quickly hear back from the people that made it, but some of them just get canceled, some of them just don't exist anymore after that happens. I don't take blame for that, because I think other people would have found out they're bad too. But yeah, it's happened a few times.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Hey Marquez, you just exactly said the question that I was going to ask you. So let me just think of one. What was, I guess, the most unexpected opportunity you've got from being on YouTube? I know you did a collab with Casey as well, and I've really enjoyed that one. Was there one where you were like, oh, I would have never thought I would be doing this as a YouTuber?
I still think my first interview with Kobe. I wasn't doing any interviews, I wasn't doing any sneakers. It was just like a kid who plays Frisbee and does tech videos got invited out to Nike's campus, actually the Staples Center, to talk to Kobe. And it was like, I got there in this room and there was like 4 or 5 other journalists there, and there was like, all right, here's what's gonna happen. Kobe's gonna walk in, he's gonna do this interview, that interview, this one here, then you, then he's out. So good luck. And then they leave. So Kobe walks in and he does the first interview. I'm like, oh my God. And then he does the second interview, he does the third interview. And as he's walking up to me, I'm like, oh, this isn't real. This isn't actually happening.
Were you just like watching them as they did like
Yeah.
interview by?
Yeah, it was all of that dramatic build up and lead up, and like finally he comes over, he sits down, he's the nicest guy ever, and we have that conversation. I was like, I would never have predicted any of what just happened. I'm gonna go with that for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi. Sorry. Hi, my name is Ozzy. I'm the current president of NESB at Stevens. As a student leader on campus, I can see, as you can see, you're a role model and a leader to so many people on this campus. So my question to you is, I don't know if you ever thought about yourself as a leader while you're on Stevens campus, but what does that mean to you to be a leader to so many and have so much influence to the world?
I think when I was on campus, I never really thought of it that way, but as it's sort of evolved, I understand that I can see the ripple effects of the things I choose to do. It's a little bit of pressure, I guess, but I feel like as long as my goals stay the same, which is I'm trying to make videos I would want to watch, I'm trying to make channels I would want to subscribe to, I'm trying to make good quality content, and I can see the inspiration for other people trying to do the same thing, I feel pretty good about that. I feel pretty good about people trying to do the same things I'm doing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
On a little bit of a lighter note, what's your favorite pizza joint in Hoboken?
Grimaldi's. Yeah.
Never been.
Really?
No.
It's pretty close.
I'll go. I'll go tomorrow.
It's still here.
I'll
It's
leave a
still
YouTube
here,
comment for you.
Okay, yeah.
Review. Thank you.
Oh wait, side note, side note. Okay,
Yeah.
have you guys seen this video from Dave Portnoy where that made me so mad. Go watch it if you haven't seen it. Somebody will share.
Our comedy group, we went out to the Barstool and made
Yeah.
a good party of that.
Nice. He made fun of duckbills. It was awesome.
Are you familiar with the app Be Real?
Yes. Is it
Would you be willing to take one for me today?
Yes.
Yes?
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi Marcus, Sagar, love from India. Big fan. Even I wanted a selfie, but yeah. My next question is Tesla AI Day. Are you going, and what are your thoughts?
I don't go, but I watch it every year. The stream. Careful. No, I love that. It comes down to like computers on wheels thing. Like, these car companies have to become software companies, which is really fascinating to think about. I talk all the time about like, you could buy a Tesla Model S or a Model 3, or you could buy, let's say, a Ford Mustang Mach-E. The Tesla Model S will have incredible software, incredible optimization, incredible range, but isn't the best built car. The Ford's been in business for a minute. They make an incredibly well-built car. The software is not that great. What do you have more faith in? Tesla getting good at making cars, or Ford getting good at making software? Two very different challenges. I'm glad to see both of those companies getting better at those things, but like Tesla's flexing on everybody with AI Day, and they will continue to extend their lead. But it's a computer on wheels. I love it.
Right. Thank you.
Hello, how you doing?
Good.
I guess just one very small YouTuber to a big YouTuber like you. Do you still create your own thumbnails?
Yes. Well, yes and no. I have a little help now.
Yeah.
So I have a team with me at the studio. We have a space that we use to shoot videos, and I have a team that helps with different parts of it that they're better than me at. So when you're a YouTube creator, eventually you get to this point where you're like, wow, I'm the cameraman, I'm the writer, I'm the on-camera talent, I'm the editor, I'm also the accountant, I do the inbox, I'm doing so many things. And so I've found ways to cut off some of these things and have people that are better than me at them doing those things, and image manipulation is one of those things.
Interesting.
Yeah,
it's really interesting. For me, it's just like I just grab a screenshot from whatever Minecraft world I'm in, then just put in Krita and just do whatever.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The first 10 years of me making videos, I almost always took a thumbnail from the video, and more recently, the past 3, 4, 5 years, we've actually shot a separate thumbnail, thought really hard about what the thumbnail should be, what makes a good thumbnail, click-through rate, things like that. And so we actually have a lot of thought going into that.
Oh, nice. Just more of in a nutshell answer. What's your take on kind of the evolution of YouTube?
It's they're the GOAT. They're the best. I mean, it's pretty simple, and also I look forward to more competition coming up and keeping their ship steady, because they don't continue to be good without others pushing them.
Yeah, definitely. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. So during your 13, 14-year career, you've had a lot of very impactful, important moments in your career and the landscape of YouTube in general, with different videos, interviewing a lot of people, getting blocked on Twitter by Gal Gadot. But I'll actually want to ask more about one particular thing. What was it like being on Rewind YouTube 2018? No longer has the most dislikes anymore, so.
Really?
Yeah, you can't see it anymore.
It was funny. Being invited to Rewind was always a badge of honor for a creator. Holy crap, YouTube invited me to be in their end of the year, biggest summary of the year video. It was also the biggest production I was on every year. It's this company, it's called Studio C, I believe. They produced the whole thing. It was amazing. And for a couple of years, it was amazing. And then 2017 happened, it was a little less amazing, and 2018 happened, and they made some promises they couldn't keep, and it was just not, they tried to do so much, and it was just impossible. I'm kind of glad it found its end. R.I.P. YouTube.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah.
Hi. First, I want to say your video on the Galaxy Buds Plus a year ago gave me inspiration to purchase them, and it's a year later. I still use them to this day, Chris. Thank you so much for that. So my question is, if you had to leave out your home tomorrow, and you had to pick another place to live, or move to, what place would it be anywhere in the world, and why?
Okay, I have a pretty safe answer, which is part of this job is going to tech events and going to the things that tech companies are putting on. And I've had all this pull to maybe check out the Carolinas or check out some of these European countries. But if I wasn't in New York or San Francisco, I would have to fly twice as much, because I'm always in those two cities for some reason. So my safe answer is somewhere in the Bay, because I would just be flying back to New York a lot and going to events around the Bay. But it's also my favorite city to visit. Every time I'm there, the weather is better. No offense to Stevens, but the weather's kind of nice over there. So I'm gonna say San Francisco.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Hey, so obviously you reviewed a ton of tech products, so a lot good, some bad, definitely. So is there anything that you see companies doing or not doing when they design a product that you really think is an oversight that they miss, I guess, in terms from a design side?
Right. Yeah, there's a bunch of little stuff. If you review enough cars, you start to notice weird things about the storage compartment in the middle. Every car has a different storage compartment. And a lot of these electric cars have extra room in the middle because there's no drive shaft in the middle. So they do weird stuff with the middle. Some of them are just I just reviewed the Nissan Ariya, and it's just open. And you put a bag down and you drive around a corner and your bag is just sloshing around. You guys gotta think about this a little more. Anyway, so if you review enough products, I feel like you start to see a lot of little stuff. Generally, stuff is well designed, like I said again, because it goes through tons of people to eventually make it to market, but there's lots of little stuff.
And I guess from that, what do you think companies can do to, or designers when they're designing stuff to do to kind of catch those oversights before the stuff gets released?
Every company has a different version of putting it in the hands of real people, and I think they all need some honest way to put it in the hands of real people. The more secretive a company is, like think about like Apple or whatever, like the less likely they are to catch those things, and have to hire lots of really good people to not say anything, but spend a lot of time using it in the real world. That's hard. They all got to figure out how to do it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
So this next question will probably be our last question for the night. Sorry for everyone in line.
Hi Marquez. You mentioned that the Tesla Model S Plaid is like your current favorite car.
Yeah.
But I was just wondering, like, do you foresee anything maybe replacing that, like the Lucid Air Sapphire or like the rumored Apple car maybe? Because they could probably nail like the software integration with the technology.
It would be fascinating. So right now, there are a lot of really good electric cars, and to be honest, a lot of them are just as good, if not better, as a daily driver. But the secret sauce that Tesla keeps me in their ecosystem with is also a supercharger network. As an Ultimate Frisbee player, tournament in Washington, D.C., tournament in Boston, tournament in Toronto, lots of road trips. And trying to do a road trip in an electric car that you're not sure about the next charger you're going to stop at is not fun. So for the time being, while that advantage still exists, as a daily, I feel I still lean Tesla, but I really want that to change. I think there's a couple ways it can change it, but
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, everyone, thank you so much for coming out. Marcus, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you for having me. This has been a pleasure. I'll stay a little longer and talk to people, answer questions or whatever if you guys want, but I just want to say I admire the position you guys are all in. I went to Stevens not that long ago, and it looked very different. Yeah. So you guys have an incredible opportunity in front of you and an incredible campus to do that. So congrats to all of you for being here, and good luck.
Thank you.